buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Hello again, Buffer Timers. We're here to talk about Spock's Brain, what some have said to be the worst episode of Star Trek all time. Before we get going, let's go around clockwise and introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
My name is Galileo Galli. I'm appearing in front of the Catholic Church today to discuss my heretical beliefs on how good Spock's brain is.
Hi, I'm Del, and I'm looking for brains. But I also really like this episode, so it'll be fun.
I'm Scott, host of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About.
And I'm Vanessa, and I host a YouTube channel called I Love Bad Star Trek. And I never thought I would talk about this episode ever again.
Well, I'm glad that you're here to talk about this episode again. You made some great points in your video that you recorded probably, almost 2 years ago at this point? And I rewatched it this week. That was a good source. I watched just about everything I could find on YouTube regarding Spock's brain, and believe it or not, there's not that much out there for an episode that's so critically panned. Where are the critics? Let's talk about that today. Let's start off with, does the moral of the story about not becoming too reliant on technology resonate today?
I'm not sure it ever really resonated, to be honest. I mean,
Really?
I'm a software engineer. I work in the tech, so I'm a bit biased, but I don't think it's ever really. It's never. People have always talked about how becoming too dependent on technology could collapse society since technology was invented, and it's never happened.
I like the kind of go outside and touch grass message that we get.
Yeah.
The idea that living isolated from the rest of the world and only coming out to do whatever they do with the giants. I feel like it does come back to that go outside and touch grass sort of idea.
I don't I hear what you're saying, Del. I don't think that concept would have been a thing at this point, where people would be so isolated by technology that they would need to have the message of you need to go outside and connect with other people quite in the same way as we do now. But I could see that message. But what I see more of is there's other episodes of TOS that show this message much more clearly. For example, A Taste of Armageddon, where we have a war that was data driven, and they were killing people based on printout results of that. And an over-reliance on technology to sort of figure out your morals for you is a good cautionary tale. Whereas with this, monosyllabic women kidnapped a brain from a person to run their world. I don't think I'm making the connection quite in the same way as you.
The question was, how does it apply to today? That's why I was talking about.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about go outside and touch grass. It's something that people say to each other now when they're using technology as their only way to contact the rest of the universe.
Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I could see the real world comparison now because, you've got these women who, according to McCoy, have the intelligence of a child unless they hook themselves up to a machine that knows everything for them. We are so there right now. The question that immediately comes to my mind is, what do we do nowadays if we don't know something? We Google it. We got the machines right here to do it for us. That's just that was it.
In spite of them having a technologically advanced, underworld or whatever, they still needed a human brain or a Spock's brain to run it. So what did they use before? If there's a reliance on technology, but it's human powered, so that, yeah.
Okay, now I see what Scott was really getting at with
That's good, 'cause I don't.
the connection to. Oh, you were talking about a connection last night to lift us where suffering cannot reach from Strange New Worlds, and yeah. So obviously, like, every 10,000 years or whatever it was they said, they gotta get a new brain.
Yeah.
What is
As you
brain?
do.
As you do.
I have to say, as someone who loves Spock's brain, I'll fully acknowledge it's a rather absurd premise, but like, I think that makes it fun. Like, every time they say the word Spock's brain, I just have like a smile on my face, or it's like, yeah, this is what the episode's about.
And massive props to DeForest Kelly to be able to say, Jim, his brain is gone, with a straight face. I really want to know how many takes that took. I'm trying to like, we're seriously doing this? Really?
I wonder if they did. Like, I mean, there's 3 seasons deep into TOS. Like, they've had odd setups. They've had kind of absurd things. So I wonder what it was like filming Spock's brain.
One thing I noticed here is that this is one of the few TOS episodes that has all the classic characters. I'm not sure if it has Chief Kyle. I didn't notice that or not, but you get like Majel here, and it's got Chekhov and Sulu and Uhura, and you don't always have all of those extra characters. And Scotty, everybody's that you would think of as Star Trek is in this one.
I think I think I came up with an actual answer rather than a counter argument. I apologize for making everything an argument, but maybe it's more of a lesson of like over reliance on people who we rely on to like think for us. What is the Enterprise without Spock? What is, it's like we need to democratize intelligence versus like relying on one person to have all the answers to everything. Maybe.
See that? Yeah.
So the giants don't know what women are, and the girl in the cave doesn't know masculine pronouns. Is this a gender-free planet?
I think
Gender-divided planet.
that's the universal translator being weird, probably, because they do have words for the people above and the people below, like the Morg and Imorg.
Excellent comparison to a real-world man and woman.
It needs to be more alien. Like, that is something I don't like. It's like woman is just man, but with an extra syllable tapped on the front.
At the very end of Spock's brain, Kirk says, all you got to do is do what comes naturally, with the women below and the men here above, and everything will work out fine. So in the end, it does become about gender roles, that the technology gave the fairer sex an upper hand in a way that isn't natural. And what Kirk is advocating for is equity by way of procreation and integration and going above to live in a glaciated planet where they're just going to have to figure it out with a bunch of people they don't want to hang out with.
The look on his face in that scene, though, when Spock's going off and he's like, that's our Spock. Come on, man. Sorry, Dal.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. You were first.
Me?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
Okay. I was also looking at, and please don't beat me up for this comparison, but like, I didn't know I was pregnant. The idea that like, if they're giving delights to the giants, I'm thinking maybe there's enough of an understanding that they understand how to procreate.
Yep.
But I don't know about, I guess we would know better if the next brain they stole was a woman's brain. So that it proves that it doesn't matter. But I just found that kind of interesting.
What, that they stole a man's brain specifically, or?
No, that the giants don't know what women are, and the women don't know what masculine pronouns mean.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that idea that it's a failure in the universal translation, because I thought about that too. It's like, so the Morg are the, but I'm also unclear. Are they two different species? Are only the women smaller and the men are like much bigger in all cases here?
I
Because most
think
of these
so.
dudes seem about the same size as Kirk when we see
They're-
like scale in the fight scene.
I never
I think
thought
they're
of them as
hunched over.
giants.
You know, you
Like-
see the ones down below that they like captured or whatever they did,
Yeah.
and those are bigger. But most of the ones that we see up top side just seem the same size as Kirk and the rest of the party to me.
This is true.
They're not that much bigger, but if you look like, because when they're actually standing up and not hunched over, when like the caveman runs away at the end, because I also didn't realize until Kurt, the guy said like, but you're small. They are, at least that one guy was bigger, but I think they spend a lot of time like cavemen hunched
Yeah.
over, and they don't really ever stand side by side, so it's not apparent.
Also, to like the gender question, they asked I thought they were just cavemen, giants or whatever. One of the first things they asked one of them is like, "Where's your girlfriend? Where's your partner?" You know, they're imposing this like, you know, that's how the crew sort of projected this onto them, and then in the end, like, thought that was a solution to their problem.
If I could add to the whole discussion with, I agree that, yeah, all this is bad. The gender politics of the whole episode is like basically the one thing that doesn't work for me. But in the context of like Spock's brain is the worst episode ever, I think this is a problem that like pretty much every episode of TOS has. If it doesn't, it's probably because that episode doesn't have a woman in it. So it's like, yes, I agree. But if Spock's brain is like the worst episode ever made because of this, why isn't like Mudd's Women or, you know, any random episode of TOS? But other than that, I absolutely agree that, yeah, that's the worst part of the episode.
Mudd's Women is one of the most egregious misuses of a topic.
Yeah.
Agreed.
say.
Absolutely.
It's worse as a topic, but there's still some amount of charm to that episode where like it just there isn't here for me. And not that I'm saying that one's very much higher up in the rankings, but it's a little better for me anyway. So I guess that kind of ties into a question that Dell had and had me get a clip for, and I will play that, and then I think he's got some thoughts.
So in this episode, the people who get stunned have the ability to very gracefully fall to the ground. It applies to the women. It applies to the officers like Kirk and Bones. They also do like this very slow, dramatic, like fall to the ground. And I didn't know if they were trying to illustrate that these aliens were different, but then they did it with Kirk and Spock. So I was very confused why they all seem to like go down so gracefully. Usually they kind of just fall. But this one, they were very graceful about it. That's the best way I can put it. It just seemed weird to me.
I don't remember the other TOS episodes enough to comment, but it is like noticeably different.
Yeah, I think so. Just how because it's like usually you worry that they're going to bump their head or, you know, hurt their body. But this time, like all of them just very gracefully. I'm sure like it was the actress going, I don't want to hurt myself. But I do think it was something to be noticed. It was
If
something,
it wasn't,
and it kind of adds to the camp of it. The idea that these people can die slowly and gracefully and their clothes are still covering every part that needs to be covered.
oh yeah, that scene in particular was a very intentionally framed shot. But I wonder if it was everyone, not just like the women who were being stunned, if this episode happened to be filmed on like a concrete floor or something, and all the others, like your outside scenes, are a bit softer, and maybe for some reason they had to be more careful because of the floor.
That's fair. Because one thing I did notice after Dal asked that question last night, I rewatched it one more time today, and I noticed, man, when they knock out the crew of the Enterprise, when Majel goes down, she goes down hard.
Yeah, she
So, I mean, yeah, but I see what you're saying. Let's say the more effeminate women in Trek, definitely they get that softer, easier fall.
Yeah.
But let's go from that to something a little more personal in taste, I guess, as a question. Are the fembot clothes sexy or tacky?
It's funny this one comes up because I actually, for a lot of, I was reminded again how TOS's clothes are like really weird.
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty good one for TOS. It's weirder though because it's an alien culture. Like I see how in the I don't know about the 60s in particular, but especially now, you could draw a line that be like, all right, as time goes on, women's fashion gets more revealing, so our outfits are going to be more revealing. But
Sure.
like right now, a lot of them are still pretty revealing. So it's kind of, I think there's a weird thing going on of wanting to be what they actually think it might look like and be spacey, but also this is real revealing now. And like, it is a weird mesh of like, some of them I'm not so sure about.
I think by the show's standards itself, like the skirts that like Uhura wears and Nurse Chapel wear, like they're pretty short, and that was like a deliberately feminist thing to be able to wear skirts of a certain length. With this particular one, though, even though it's slightly, I would honestly argue it's slightly more conservative than what the crew's wearing. However, that's not the reaction of the bridge crew when she boards the ship. And that's the beginning of the gender trouble for me. Right. When she boards the ship, everybody's just so like drooling and not paying attention to what they're doing. And that's how she's able to take over the ship. And it's not, they don't do anything to defend themselves. So
I brought it up before. I'm going to do research and find the name, but there is a scale that was created because of TOS. It has a name. I have to go find it, but it's basically like what was the chance that the clothing could accidentally fall off? And so there was a range. And so they could say like, we need these costumes to be a 2. Like they need to look like, if she moves the wrong way, it's going to fall on the floor. Whereas if they're portraying more of like a more dignified character, I guess that's the way to put it, they would get more conservative clothing. But it's a thing. I just need to find the name.
Right.
I definitely remember reading about during TNG Injustice how Gene Roddenberry kept asking to the designer to cut a little more, until eventually he had to be told, like, no, it's going to fall off if we cut any more. So I had no idea there was a scale, but that's really neat.
I saw it on another video when they were talking about cosplaying for Star Trek. So I just need to go find that video. The person who did the video is very, like, she knows her stuff. So I just need to find the name.
Like the one from later in this season, That Which Survives, that one's like, some parts of it, you wonder how it's even on. Some parts of it literally must be glued on.
Like if anything's going to elevate this to like sexy, that signals that to me it's the garters. Like the rest of the dress is not that revealing, but it's got like that one lingerie-ish element, and that's like a huge stretch because they almost look like chaps, like boots or something. But yeah, I see. I see something that's made for more the male gaze than something that's necessarily like revealing strictly.
It's not the one from, I think it's What Little Girls Are Made Of. That's just like the strappy one. That's always the one that comes to mind with
Oh,
TOS's
yeah,
fashion
yeah, I
sense.
know what you're thinking about.
Or like Games of Triskelion, that baked potato
Yeah.
outfit.
Big potato!
I forgot about that one.
Well, getting back to this actual episode, when Spock finally speaks to Kirk, is the transmission coming from his body, his brain, or maybe even his katra?
I assumed it was like a intercom system, basically, of the building, like it could make a transmission.
Yeah, his brain's like in a dome. And one of my favorite things that came out of this episode, at least, is a DLC for the video game Fallout New Vegas called Old World Blues, where literally the same thing happens. Your brain gets taken and flushed down some tubes, and you got to go get it. But these like weird scientists rig you up with some shit to go get it.
I brought up the Katra thing because Spock at one point says in the brain voice, whatever that is, that he feels like he can stretch out to infinity or something along those lines. And so I was thinking maybe he's not just contained in the controller. Maybe this voice is coming from something that can see, it sounds new agey, but see from above.
Was Katra canon by the time this aired?
I know Katra became canon on TOS, I thought.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
maybe the movie.
No,
it
I
wasn't
was,
the movie, though, was it?
I think it's TMP.
okay, cool.
It might
I'm
be.
not sure.
It wasn't the Search for Spock. I'm pretty sure it was before then, but I can't remember.
More information to look up.
It might have been Search for Spock.
I just want to know why Spock didn't say, "I'm over here." You know, like.
I like the.
I don't think he's really aware of his position so much.
Yeah, I like the Katra angle though, because every time Kirk can speak to Spock, he's near Spock's body. Like there's the scene in the whatever big conference room they have where he's looking around trying to talk, and when he walks by Spock, then it works. And it was kind of dropped. I assume it was just so they could have Spock on screen. Kirk wasn't just standing there talking to himself. But I like that maybe there is something unexplained and unintentional, let's be honest, that there's something about his katra and a connection to his physical body that's allowing that communication.
That gives the episode much more depth than I was thinking. So thank you, Del, for giving me like a way to like look at this a different way, because like otherwise it's just Marco Polo, you know.
I just felt like I think some people pan the episode because they don't think about it. They just watch it and go, that wasn't entertaining. And so I was watching it specifically looking for interesting takes or something different to highlight different parts of the episode that might be good. So that was one of the ones that I had come up with.
See, it's interesting because for once, it's weird for me. I feel like people pan this episode because they think about it too much. It feels so weird hearing me say that, but I feel like it is more of a just kind of fun, campy adventure. I don't know if adventure is the right word, but yeah, it's kind of that absurdist premise that you get a bit of comedy out of it. But there is still, I think, like a nice little mystery. Like, I don't know, where is Spock's brain? These 3 planets, none of them are capable of launching a ship, but someone did. Like, it's some nice moments and good scenes built on top of this absurdist premise that works better if you don't really think, well, how are they doing this? You're like, well, the technology just lets them do whatever.
It's also worth mentioning that at the time, in the 60s, both the absurdist artist movement and the Dada artist movement were happening. And so it could have been in the same way that other Star Trek franchises will vary the tone of their episodes. I feel like this one was possibly their attempt at either absurdist or Dada sort of artistic inspiration, whereas others are more drama centered or more comedy centered. This isn't meant to be a comedy per se, it's meant to be absurdist, which is different.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I feel a lot like the writer had a deadline and like walked into the writer's room, like, what do you got? It's like, oh, aliens going to take Spock's brain. We're going to kill Spock?
Ship it.
No, because science. Just stunned silence. Like, okay, we got to do something. Write it up.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about this episode quite a lot. I watched it, and I watched it with my mother, and both of us were like, why is this happening? Why are women being relegated to being these ridiculously simple-minded people? Why are the men under their subjugation? Why is Spock's brain so important? Why is Spock ticking sometimes and sometimes not? Like, I am all for absurdity. I love, I'm not going to get into being a film nerd, but that's something I enjoy doing. I mostly got like very slapped together B movie that, didn't really like. It would be amazing for me to appreciate it on the level that Dell does. I really wish I could. Like that is amazing. I just see something really super slapped together and wish that season 3 opened with something a bit more thought out.
Yeah, there's some little details. Sorry, there's some little details that really get me. Like the episode starts with this mysterious ship that they can't identify coming towards the Enterprise. The ship is at red alert. The Enterprise, that one right there, yeah.
Yeah, this
the Enterprise,
one.
Yep. The Enterprise is at red alert. And yet I counted, it was 46 seconds in before anyone said anything. The entire bridge crew is just standing there staring at this ship that's coming at them with the ship on high alert. There's no commands being issued. You barely hear any chatter from like background characters. And it's like, this seems like a serious breach of protocol at this point.
Also,
and then really serious breach of protocol because you didn't say 47 seconds. Man, that 1 second.
I timed it though. That's the
all
thing.
The difference.
Like I paused it when Sulu started talking because he's the one with the first line, and it's at 45 or 46 seconds that he starts talking. I know they should just be like, George, hold it 1 more second. Okay.
I mean, to counter though, I got the impression this had been happening for a while. So it's not like this show shows up and then the episode starts. It's like this ship showed up an hour ago and we're kind of joining in now. But also, I mean, TOS has loads of like minute-long silences. Is it really different from another episode?
I would just think on red alert, the shields would be up, preventing transport of the woman onto the bridge. That's hole number one.
We need transporters that can go through shields, though.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who have been able to transport through shields.
Mm-hmm. There's like another episode where there's like a sort of similar dichotomy between like simple-mindedness and sort of like myopic vision on TNG, where there's two worlds where one of them is addicted to drugs and the other is dealing them drugs.
Just say no.
Yeah, and it's like this is another one of those, like we can very simply draw a line between simple-mindedness of this person and make it read very clearly, and I just feel like the rest of it just wasn't really. It was just kind of stuck together. Right. Like the debate, for example, between I think it was actually two planets they were deciding between, where one of them had the energy reading and yet wasn't very evolved, and the other one was evolved but didn't have the energy reading. And then the Kirk just says, well, the energy's there, so that's where we're going. That's as deep as that debate ever went. Like
Exactly.
it wasn't. Yeah, it
No.
wasn't like it just it's not it. It's
Well,
just a flip of the coin. Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why if you're going on a glaciated planet wouldn't you dress for it? I don't know.
Why?
It was
Why do you decide to go down to the 6th planet, as was mentioned many times, and spend the rest of the episode referring to it as Sigma Draconis 7?
Did they?
I watch with
I
subtitles.
never noticed that.
Yeah, multiple people refer to it as Sigma Draconis 7.
We don't talk about Sigma Draconis 6.
This is Sigma Draconis 6.
So, what is the best part of the episode for what? What's up?
I think Dell was muted. I think he was saying something. My mistake.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying maybe it's like the millennium where some people thought it started in 2000 and some people thought it started in 2001. And so they were debating this back and forth. Maybe this is going on with the planet. Who knows?
In between
It's an
scenes, they
idea.
discovered a new one.
Like and Ahura coming on, and I know I may be repeating point by point certain things, but like why would Ahura they were flying there for 18 hours. And then when they get there, Ahura says, I wonder what they wanted with Spock's brain. Like, why didn't they ask about that before? Why didn't they talk about that during the episode? Like theorize, brainstorm to, no pun intended.
Here's one of those shots you just reminded. This is, I think, the only one screenshot I've got with Uhura in it. But it highlight. This is one of the only shots you'll get of the entire classic main cast in TOS. So
That's
I
right.
mean that's something for this episode.
Man, the Bones disrespect.
Oh,
Well, the Bones is not supposed to be a bridge crew member. He's just there all the time.
being gruff.
They do mention, I believe, when they're in sickbay, that Spock knows more or remembers more than other people on the crew. And so that Kirk has relied upon him. And that's why Kirk personally wanted to go down and fix the problem, I think. So I know that there was a conversation where they were like, he's very smart and we need him. But it was bigger than that.
If I could expand on that comment, someone's just thrown on the stream. It's campy to me. I watched TOS as a child. It's hard to watch as an adult. It's absolutely fine. A lot of people don't like campy things, but this is TOS, and like we're 3 seasons deep into TOS. If you don't like campy things, you probably didn't get to season 3 of TOS. Like, if you got to this point of Spock's brain, you probably wouldn't dislike it because it's campy.
Well, to be fair, TOS runs contrary to most of the rest of Trek, where it kind of got worse over time. So, I mean, the first season is arguably the best. The second one, yeah, it was pretty good overall, I guess. But I'm also with Tanya there that I can't as an adult. I couldn't even as a child, but Trouble with Tribbles is okay, I guess. Thread and Journey to Battle, that's a
I
good one.
happen to remember as a child the surgery scene with where Bones is doing the surgery on Spock is one of 3 scenes I remembered from TOS as a child because I found it really cool. One of only 3 scenes in the whole series I remembered from Star Trek was from Spock's brain. Because I found that real cool and like tense as a kid. And I still think it's a good scene, but yeah.
I noticed one piece of bad editing in there. That thing I was saying earlier about like Kirk smirking while Spock was going off. If you're paying attention through the little montage while the camera's kind of going between everybody as McCoy's working, there's one point before he's done where you can catch Kirk smirking. Like they just pasted it in from the end. Somebody should have kept a better eye. Where's your continuity person?
Continuity on Spock's brain. That's like, if it weren't for my horse, I would have never spent that year in college kind of thing. Like, it's just,
What?
It
Well-
just it's good continuity in this episode. Just no. So like, my favorite part of this was actually when Kirk sort of used Spock, brainless Spock, to retrieve the controller back. That was that was a part where I was like, this is camp. I really enjoy this. And I wish more of the episode was sort of like in this tone.
Funny, that's the one bit that doesn't work for me on like a logical level. is
Right.
Where he uses the like 6 buttons to have Spock actually grab him and hit a button that Kirk can't see while Kirk is in extreme pain.
Yep.
So I find it funny that's like the one bit that worked for you.
Yeah, the fact that Kirk knew how to use the remote that Bones just jury-rigged together like an hour ago kind of breaks it for me a little bit too.
That's fair.
But the brain removal, kidnapping of brain is
Why not?
I was
Why
going
not?
to ask,
Science.
how many people in this group like 60s Batman?
Never seen it.
That
So-
I actually, when I was watching that, I made a comparison when they were fighting the guys in the control room, or not in the control room, the briefing room or whatever. I was like, why am I not seeing any like sound effects popping up on screen?
Pow!
Bam, pow, zap.
I
You
was
just
just asking because obviously 60s Batman is made of camp. And that's
Yes.
really all they kind of do. And so the idea being that I think at some level, the enjoyment of this episode has something to do with enjoying camp. But here's the big question. How do you define camp?
I've never been able to. That's fine.
Are we going by Susan Sontag's definition, or are we like, you know,
Whatever you want to talk about. But I think
guess,
it's
like,
core. It's a core to this episode. What you think of camp, how you like your camp.
It's
And
fun to go to for a couple weeks during the summer, but I wouldn't live there.
so, yeah, I just think that like the Met Gala had a camp theme a couple years ago, and some people totally got it, and some people did not.
right? I think the thing about making a camp theme a theme is that camp to me is unintentional. It's not necessarily like designed to elicit a certain reaction on purpose. It's bad, but the person producing it doesn't know that it's bad. So there's like a I think of like Batman as like deliberately silly, but camp to me has to do with like a certain level of like delusion. Like I think I'm amazing, but you know, most people wouldn't perceive it that way. This I think is just bad.
Well, I wonder, I think, Dal, did you say it? You might have hit something on the head where the reason this episode is so panned is maybe it's like a different type of camp that like you and me like. So we see it as like just another camp episode, but maybe every other camp bit is a different kind. And so that's why for people who don't like this episode, they don't even have to explain why. It's just like an obvious fact that this is bad and it doesn't have to be justified.
Yeah.
I also think
Yeah.
that camp needs to be obvious and over the top. I think that's a big part of it. Is like if you're camp is not something that happens on accident. It is something that has to be built. You need to think about the humor of it and how you want to present it. And if everyone who appreciates it will get the joke, will think it's funny. It's not, it doesn't, I don't, well, I guess it could come up accidentally, but I don't think, I'm going to say it. I don't think the writers of Spock's Brain were trying to be serious. I think they were trying to build a camp episode. And I think they did a fair midland job of it. Did they make the best sci-fi episode ever? No.
I
The
think it's
science
pretty
is
standard
ridiculous.
50s, 60s sci-fi. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's
Yeah.
most of that stuff's pretty bad and pretty unreadable, unwatchable, and it seems like it's something you'd get out of you know, the dime novel that Benny Russell wrote for. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's also like the Golden Key comics, like very early TOS style comics that this reminds me of, where it's very pulpy, very stuck together, very like dime a dozen type of sci-fi thing, which would make more sense in like a comic format because it's easily digestible, it's quick, it doesn't take a lot of, you know. But I think when they try to expand it to a 45-minute episode, that's when I think the premise of this needs to be much stronger. Like either you got to make it much dumber, much funnier, or you got to like, you know, edit.
Here's
So-
this then. If Spock's brain was an episode of the animated series, it'd be a beloved all-time classic. Because it's the perfect kind of story for for an animated series, though. I mean,
It is the perfect
it's
thing
so
for the
many-
animated series.
yeah,
You are
it
not
is.
wrong about that.
Very true.
it'd
Yeah.
be very
Like-
different, but it could be great.
like it could fit there. As to whether it's
If it's better.
TAS episode, that I don't agree with.
And
But
not
like,
the
yeah,
not the
It's
episode,
almost
but
same
the
level
premise.
of camp.
Right.
Like the
Can I
premise.
jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did anyone else hear the rumor that they're going to turn TAS into a live action show?
No.
How?
I don't know, but I
No.
saw it in 2 different locations this week.
I don't buy it.
So I doubt it. I think it's ridiculous, but I
Where's-
did hear the
It
rumor.
is.
So since we
Where's-
brought it up,
If you
I
read
wanted
it
to
on
ask.
Giant
Wait.
Robot, it's not true.
Where's
Yeah.
Paramount
Like the
pulling that
Marvel
money from?
series?
Like, no.
they already got Strange New Worlds, so that era of Trek is kind of covered, I would think. So to have 2 shows in that time period doesn't make a lot of sense. And like to have you're basically bringing back the OG. Like we're gonna have the Kirk that's on Strange New Worlds in this. Like I don't think that would work.
Actually,
I'm
maybe
just
that's
saying,
like,
I heard it from 2 different places, so I wanted to bring it up since we were talking about TAS, even something like tangentially.
Right.
Go
maybe
on.
that's the place I could actually see Paul Wesley fitting in as Kirk. Kirk is more of like a just by the book block of wood normal character that this guy seems like in TAS. And it's, you know, just due to the quick and snappy nature of the show, but yeah, actually Paul Wesley would be perfect as Kirk in TAS. And I hate TAS and I hate Paul Wesley as Kirk, so take that however you want it. Back to this question. As far as camp, this is not camp. It falls into just this pile of boredom. It's not quite. So yeah, it's a culmination of what everybody said so far. It's not quite bad enough to be camp. It's not quite either well thought out enough or not thought out at all enough to be camp. It's this boring middle ground that's not quite the worst thing in all of Trek, and it doesn't actually go anywhere or feel satisfying at the end. So I'm not sure what camp is. I have a hard time defining it, but this is not camp. This is a weird middle ground, that a purgatory of camp, if you will.
Like and when I think of like deliberate camp, I think of like John Waters. I think of like people that are making a sort of point with the over the topness, and I don't think I see what point this is trying to make, if that's their angle. Like if there's some sort of satirical commentary they're making, it's not reading.
I think camp is someone going on stage and making a glass of ice water as a talent. Like, I think the idea being that, I know, they know what I'm talking about, but it's about being over the top, but in a way where you're taking it very serious. Like the characters are taking it very seriously. Like Spock's brain, they're not going like, hee-haw, this is funny. They're taking it very seriously, but we find it to be funny. And I think sometimes that is like, that's the tie to John Waters.
Like the thing about John Waters too, like for me, is that like, for example, like Hairspray, it's not just about, you know, over the top characters, or it's about a time and place and what was going on in that time and place in terms of like racial relations.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm not saying that everything needs to have like super deep meaning, but I would think Star Trek would be the place where you could have that kind of message embedded in an episode like this. And instead it's like Spock's man brain is thinking for these women. What's and the way that they fixed it is hetero cis normativity. What?
It's 1960.
I mean, that sounds
So-
like every episode of TOS to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's not great, but it's also
Like-
every episode.
At the time,
Yeah.
the producers were bribing the cops in California to not arrest the actors that were homosexual. It was a known like game in the area, was that if you knew one of your actors was homosexual and kind of effeminate about it, or in the women's case, very butch about it, they would bribe the cops not to arrest them, since homosexuality was against the law at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We are
I
pretty
really
Stonewall.
I love the angle though, Del. You just like digging up gold here, because like
I do my homework.
They got to each other's beards in order to survive is just so funny. That is funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I did my homework.
So as we get towards the end of our hour here, I would really like to get Nathan to sell us on why Spock's brain is good.
It's a great episode of Star Trek. It's got the normal kind of campness, the absurd premise that TOS has. But I think because I really did when I watched it before the live stream, it'd be like, why exactly do I like this episode? And it was that absurd premise that made a lot of scenes funny. Like, as I said, anytime they said the word Spock's brain, I just got a smile on my face, because it is kind
Spock's
of
brain,
ridiculous.
the drinking game.
that this is what we're talking about. But it's not just an episode of that. Like, it's not a comedy, as I think Dal said. So I think it does have the good things, like I said before, the mystery. I mean, of course, I knew the answers on the rewatch of like, well, none of these three planets, like there was the 1400s, I think 2030 in a glacial age. No one can send this super advanced ship. You know, there's a lot of mystery elements. Then you get there. And even though we've already discussed a lot the problems of like the gender politics and everything in the episode, there's still some mysteries of like, well, why are we only seeing men? Why are the women down here, the men up there? Where is Spock's brain? Like, we know it's somewhere in the complex. Why do they want Spock's brain? I do think it's a nice little mystery, and I think it has enough of the scenes around the bad depictions of gender and sex. Like the surgery scene is real nice. I think there's a lot of the tension, and that's basically it. Like, it's different things. It isn't the most cohesive necessarily. Like, you don't usually get the camp right next to then the very more serious scenes. But I like both of them. I think both those aspects work well, and they do kind of shift gears. There aren't a lot of times where it's like we're trying to have a real serious scene, but actually it's a camp. And so I think that's what does it. If you like TOS as a whole, you should like Spock's brain, because it's a lot of what most of the other episodes have. And that's the position I've always had. If you like TOS, you should like Spock's brain. And I like seeing the different faces from people who like the
I like it in
episode
the
does.
sense of completionism, I guess. Watch it if you're gonna watch the rest of Trek. If you're gonna watch season 3 of TOS, yeah,
You
which
have
for
to
the
watch
most part
Foxborough.
don't watch the Enterprise incident, and there's like one more good episode, and otherwise
Well-
season 3 is just wow.
I want to
Let that be their last
address
battle
that
in
too,
season 3.
because there are those lists of like the much watch episodes for like people who don't really like most of the original series, and they're like maybe a dozen or 2 episodes, like less than a third of the whole show, which is fine because you know the 60s television, it's not for everyone. But I feel like if you only watch those episodes like Balance of Terror or I oh god, they're all escaping me, but you know, those kind of hit classics that are the more what later Star Treks will do, maybe they're more philosophical or more thinky, then I feel like you don't like TOS. Like you like a very specific type of thing TOS does. You like a very specific type of TOS episodes, but you don't like the original series. That's why you're only watching maybe a dozen or 2 of every episode. And so, yeah, if you don't like TOS, you won't like Spock's Brain. But if you like TOS, I think you should like Spock's Brain.
That's fair.
And certainly, like, it shouldn't be hated to the point where nearly the entire fan base cites it as an episode that's so bad, it's not even worth explaining why it's bad. Like, if just some people didn't like this episode, I'd be fine with it. It's the fact that everyone seems to hate this episode. I'm like, why? Why so much?
All right. Well, so there's 800 roughly live action episodes of Star Trek right now. So if you pair it up versus all of those other episodes, still you're going to find something that falls to the bottom of the tree when you shake it. For me, this is one of them. I don't think it's the worst. So let's play a little game. Since my channel revolves around ranking all of Star Trek, I'm going to go up 50 at a time, roughly, and ask you whether you think Spock's Brain is better than this episode. So let's just go up a few from where I think it is. Do you think it's better than Move Along Home in DS9?
Yes.
No. I always really like that one.
I do
That's
like
the
Move Along
Alan Moraine
Home.
episode.
Yeah.
I love that episode. I think Spock's Brain is more thought out and has a better flow of plot.
I'd say they might be pretty close to on par, but only
All right.
because of the gender issues. If it weren't for that, it's better.
What do you think?
This is
Vanessa?
painful. This is painful.
But I do like Move Along Home, actually.
So terrible.
So if I move up a little further and we push
Yep.
it against another TOS episode that I would say is probably about 50 better than where Spock's Brain is. Wolf in the Fold, the one where we find out Piglet is Jack the Ripper and Scotty is being accused of murder.
Oh, that to me is campy. That
I buy
episode
that.
is
That
very
is camp.
campy. This is just really difficult to watch. Spock's Brain is just hard for me to watch and become invested in. Yeah, more plot in that for sure.
Very true.
I think I do like that other one better. I like the tension. But yes, the one where we learn that Scotty canonically hates women is better than this one.
How about the one with conspiracy bugs in TNG? That's around the same era. period.
Spock's Brain's better. Easy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I hate that episode. So
It was gutted by how divisive it was internally.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, so everybody on this panel, including myself, I hate that fucking episode. I have encountered a ton of people that love conspiracy, and I have no idea why.
I feel like the concept is admirable. I think it's sort of like proto-Borg sort of like infiltration from the inside kind of deal. I like that idea. The way that it's executed is horrible. I like the end where the guy explodes and all the little crab people fly out of him. I love that. The claymation was just ridiculous. that to me is more enjoyable on a campy level on a certain degree because of the gore and stuff and the antenna coming out of their neck or whatever. But like that is at least like entertaining on a certain level, but it is painful. It is painful.
You also have to spend 40 minutes to get to that point.
And watching Riker
Yeah,
eat mealworms, that was nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
The last
Let's-
5 minutes is good.
Let's go up another 50. Is
Okay.
it better than If Wishes Were Horses, the one with Rumpelstiltskin and DS9?
Ooh.
Yeah, Star Trek has a lot of really bad, weird stuff. We're like 100 up here, and we're still in the shit.
Yeah,
I think Vanessa's gonna have to change the name of her YouTube channel.
I know.
Like,
I find these entertaining, and that the way that I look at it is I'm taking on the pain so that others don't. I'm nailing myself to the cross of crap so that others don't have to suffer.
I
So-
like them too, but I don't see pain. Like, I'll take your name. Apparently, I like bad Star Trek.
I mean, like, I just wonder, would it have been any better had they used the original ideas as the leprechaun instead of Rumpelstiltskin? Would that have made it any better?
Because if there's one thing Star Trek does right, it's the Irish.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
well, Spock's brain is easily better than that one. I
Absolutely. Well,
easily give you that.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one. Like, it's obviously super racist. Like, that's a given.
Yep.
It's more like this actually has some semblance of thought into it. And it's not a good thought, it's a bad thought. But there's like more going on in the plot, going strictly off of that. But like, it's offensive as hell.
Right.
I'd probably say Spock's brain's better, but they're close.
But yeah, versus If Wishes Were Horses, right? Not
Yeah, which is well.
Yeah.
Right.
all right. So if I go up a little bit more, is Spock's brain better than Tuvik's?
Haven't seen it in a while.
We are gonna find your
mean,
threshold of pain
yes.
today, Nathan.
Are you gonna
Yes,
find a good threshold?
because Janeway made the wrong decision. That's why. Janeway killed Tuvix because she wanted coffee. That's my take.
Okay, here's the thing though. Tuvix is not a great episode, but boy, does it make you think and ask questions about shit. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just the effect it had, the after effect that it has, I would say makes it better than Spock's brain because people are talking about afterwards. Well, is it
Mhm.
ethical to like take out a alien person's brain? No, we don't care. It's like they took out his brain. Okay, and then they put it back.
I've heard so many amazing twists on Tuvix, and like I read a reverse Tuvix concept once where like everyone on the ship became Tuvix and they didn't know they used to be singular, and then there was a transporter accident where like someone got split into two people and they didn't want to be merged back. Like it's the same premise, it's just the opposite. And then they're like, well, what about now? Like Tuvix is amazing food for thought.
I actually love Tuvix. The idea that Janeway may have made the wrong decision is exactly why I like it, because she's shown to make
She's
some.
infallible.
Yes,
She is fallible.
It's
Right.
in character. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I think the best moment in that episode is when Janeway leaves sickbay and she takes a couple of steps and then she pauses.
Yep.
And kind of gives a look and then keeps going. Like she even knows maybe this was the wrong decision.
I might have to watch Tuvix again before I really.
He was like begging
Right.
for his life. He
Oh
was
my
begging for his
gosh.
life. It was
Well,
hard.
let's go up just a little bit more. What is it better than Voyager Spirit Folk?
Which one?
Yeah.
Is that?
The Irish seaside town
I
in the
just watched
holodeck,
that one.
season
Yeah.
6 Voyager.
There
we
were
can
too
do
many
a
of
different one.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, because I really like Spirit Folks, so
I kind of do too. Do you remember the episode of Voyager Virtuoso where the doctor
Yes.
does opera and he like tries to go off the ship permanently?
Yeah.
Almost.
The premise might be
Is
equally
is Spock's
ridiculous.
brain better than that?
The premise
Voyager's
might
my
be equally
weakest Trek,
ridiculous.
but
That's all I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with. I think the premise was better than the execution.
for which one? Virtuoso?
Virtuoso.
Yeah.
I just like Robert Picardo being given the spotlight in general, and he was right.
I think that's why Virtuoso's better. It's a
Yeah,
Robert Picardo episode.
We
It's
need to
gonna
make
be
a
better.
shirt that
exactly.
says Janeway was right.
So it would seem to me, we'll ask one more. I'm going to ask you one more, and then we'll see if this like kind of falls into about where you think Spock's brain might really fall. Stardust City Rag and Picard, that episode where we killed Icheb for no fucking good
Spock's
reason.
brain's better. Come on.
All right, all right,
right.
all right.
No, I reached my limit. I think Spirit Folk is where I dropped out.
Let's see.
I
what
just
we
watched
got.
that too.
Is it better than the episode of Voyager False Prophets where they find the Ferengi that got sent to the Delta Quadrant in TNG?
It's one of my favorites
It's
of
got
all
some
time, but I'm a
fun
Ferengi
scenes.
lover.
It's got some
Can't
fun
be
scenes,
gold.
but it's a good episode. Like
No, that episode actually made sense though. I mean, Ferengis find themselves stranded somewhere. Like, okay, how can we turn this to our advantage and profit? Ferengi's
Well,
gonna Ferengi.
it built off a TNG episode too, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Mhm.
But again, Voyager's really weak. It's on my list. I'm watching Deep Space Nine now, and then I'm going to Voyager because it's been like too long.
Scott's in the middle of a big
Season 6,
watch.
yeah.
Okay, so DS9 then. Is Spock's brain better than Wrong's Darker Than Death or Night? The one where Kira goes back in time just to mess with her mom and Dukat.
Oh,
Spock's brain is better.
I might even
I'm in
agree
the
with
race
that.
again.
Sure.
I know, like, this is
Oh,
my
no.
own list that I've like vetted, and now I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe it's actually better than some of this. To see, you're convincing us, Nathan.
yeah, there it's working. I don't remember that one. I remember the episode, but like I don't remember the events in it a lot. I'm not that far in my watch through. I'm a bad Trekkie, I know. I've been putting it off, but I finally realized that my fiance is going to take years to actually get to these shows. So I finally decided I can rewatch them. So I'm
I
building up
broke
my-
my wife into the whole thing doing the Star Trek chronology project about 10 years ago, where you watch all of the episodes by
I've done
star
it.
date, and it's fun.
I think it's
That
a
took 2
great
years.
second watch through. I don't think it's a good first watch through though, so that's why I haven't done it. It can definitely work, but it's not how I would do it.
I started with Enterprise, worked my way through the timeline that way.
Yeah, and the
I don't think
chronology
that DS9 episode is worse than Spock's brain at all. Is this the one where she watches her mother fall to Dukat?
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
no.
That's surely better. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's
later Deep
definitely
Space Nine
better.
too, isn't it?
It has Kira confronting something about herself that she didn't know about her past that is integral to her character in general. Absolutely not. Like that.
And it also gives
I'm
us a
remembering
new
that.
look into what occupied Bajor was like.
Right, like occupations in general. Yeah. Mhm.
No, I think that's a good one from what I'm remembering. So I think
Not
the
one of my
problem is
favorites,
that
but-
I disagree with your list.
Well, no, that's okay. But
yeah, that's fine.
if we're topping out on all of these somewhere around here, then somewhere around your 550s,
I mean, it is similar.
So,
I've
a
said
couple
a
hundred
lot,
up from the bottom.
but is that the top 10%? It's
Well,
above the
it would
top
be the
10,
bottom.
isn't it?
Yeah, it would
Well,
be-
it's
yeah.
above the
it's the
bottom
quarter.
10%.
It's
Yeah.
like almost into the bottom, at the top of the bottom quarter.
So like, it's not
One
even
man.
the worst quarter of episodes ish, or it's like around there. Maybe.
The only problem is that for me at least, a lot of these other episodes, I can actually watch them all the way through. They might not be good, but they're like, I can watch them all the way through and not feel bored. This is one of the only episodes of Star Trek, this and Shades of Grey, that like, honestly, I am bored to tears. I cannot even.
Right.
I haven't rewatched Modern yet, but Shades of Grey is the only one I skip now.
Pulaski's the only one that showed up to act. And it's Diana Muldaur's last appearance in Trek.
I genuinely used to think that they didn't know they had to produce like however many episodes. They thought they had to do one less, and they had to scramble together to produce like a 26th episode or however many. I used to think that was the reason behind Shades of Grey, because it was that bad.
Nope, the writer's strike, they ran out of money because of Q-Who. There was a whole bunch of factors, and Maury Hurley threw that thing together in a weekend, and it was filmed in 3 days and done.
Yeah.
I feel like I brought this up before, but like when you have constrained resources, that sort of should be an inspiration to be more creative rather than like, oh, we just ran out of money, so we're just going to phone it in. Like Shades of Grey was a real missed opportunity. I feel like at that juncture in TNG, we didn't really know Picard very well or Riker very well about their inner workings and everything, like unless they're delegating something on the bridge. So I felt like it was a missed opportunity more than just like, we ran out of money. It was just really like they just wasted everybody's time.
The original series is like a master class in how to make a show with no money.
Right.
Like there's especially season 3, like even if you don't like the episodes, the actual how they produced it, the empath where the set's literally just like a black void, the OK Corral where it's literally facades of buildings. It's so good in how to make a show with no money.
Honestly, that episode, Spectre of the Gun, is the only thing I like about it is the facades. I hate that episode. They spend like 3/4 of it just trying to make weapons that they can't actually use at the end. There's just not enough going on in that one for me, but I kind of love how the facades like tell this dreamscape thing. And really all that was because they ran out of money again. They needed money for another show, so they took it from that one. But yeah, the facades were kind of cool. I can see you, rolling your eyes. That's okay. We do not.
I also like that episode, I quite like season 3 of TOS. Not every episode, of course, but I don't think it's that much worse than the previous 2.
So what would be an easy episode that is definitely worse for you?
I don't want to make everyone mad with one of my real controversial ones.
Up the long ladder.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it basically any episode where I didn't enjoy anything about it, and there's gonna be, I'm sure, dozens. I'm trying. If you want to keep the conversation, I could just open like a list of episodes and be like, oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't have one.
Well, no, I'll do it. I'll say my controversial ones. The Sound of Thunder Discovery episode that everyone loves. Absolutely hate it. I think it's it's horrible.
Which one? Which one is it? What was the plot?
It's the one where they go to Saru's planet with the Kelpians. It's that one.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay, great. I've only ever seen one negative review of that episode. And then the Strange New Worlds Gorn one, I never remember the name of. All Those Who Wander, it's the alien episode, but Gorn, where they're on the not Enterprise. I actually didn't finish that one. I had to stop.
You're talking about Memento Mori or the other one?
No, All Those Who Wander.
Yeah.
The one where Hummer dies.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never seen the scene where he dies because I had to walk away from that episode. The only one in history I haven't finished. I looked up what happened, which was good for my review. I would have been real confused if I didn't, but I hate that one.
Agreed.
It's the one about murdering babies. Thank you. That's the only other negative review I've seen of that one.
Are you sure you're not talking about?
Did I name the
What-
wrong episode name? It might be called something
not
different,
sure.
but it's the one where they're on the not Enterprise, but it looks like the Enterprise.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
It's like Alien.
Yeah,
with
it's
Thor.
very
Yeah.
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 I didn't particularly care for that one either. I like the death scene, but I felt like everything leading
Maybe I
up
should
to it
watch
like
it.
could have easily been avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, this
it,
is
like,
great.
yeah.
I've never seen people who agree with me on those.
No, Scott knows the one that I would say for that. I can actually say yes. Spock's brain is better than a Strange New World episode, and it's
I think
lift
I'd
us where
cite-
suffering cannot reach.
I
Yes!
hate.
Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
can't fucking even with that episode.
I don't remember.
I
The
don't
one where
remember
they
which one.
sacrifice children
I
to
know which
keep
one
their
it is.
society
Oh yeah.
going.
It might be close, but I hate to focus so much on modern Star Trek, but I'd also probably say the entirety of the first 2 seasons of Discovery worse than Spock's
Oh,
brain.
wow.
I hate those seasons.
Season one, I would agree.
Maybe
with
there's
you.
maybe
Season
there's a good
two,
one I'm forgetting.
not as much. Season four is your
People seem to agree that
Mhm.
season 2 was better than season 1 nowadays. I'm the opposite. Season 2 I've cited as the worst production I've ever seen. I don't think it works on any level.
They just like took Axanar and like took the rights away from who made that and then made it themselves, and they made a bad Axanar, and that's how I view that. Season 2 had more of a point. There was like a goal at the end. Season 3 had they were getting gas.
There was a
season
goal.
3, right?
That they could have easily solved it like basically any moment. And when they do solve it, they still go through the goal of moving to the future, which I guess for some it solves the problem now, but now you just got to deal with it in the future. And you're not going to prepare for it in any way because you're going to keep Control secret. So it's a good thing they killed Control before they moved to the future. It doesn't work. We're over time, but I could spend a whole hour on why season 2 doesn't work.
Maybe we will in the future.
Then I'd have to
That-
rewatch it.
I think it's one of the most mediocre seasons of Trek. I don't think it's bad, but like there's one episode I don't like, but overall I don't think it's that bad. I don't know. Anyway, do we have any more questions or topics we'd like to really dig into here on Spock's brain before we get out of here?
I think I've said my piece.
I will give props to McCoy. Kind of almost the saving grace of the episode for me because he realizes what's going on with Spock, and despite all the crap he's given him for 2 straight seasons, he's ready to help him to find his brain. And the fact that he even admits that he might be a doctor, he might be on the flagship ship of the fleet, but he doesn't know how to fix it.
I'll say actually,
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised that other than the one line at the end about attaching his mouth, there was no McCoy racism in the episode, which I had kind of expected.
Yeah.
From TOS.
Yeah, he's genuinely concerned for his friend, and that is really nice.
Yeah. That's all I got.
He's not going to
Wasn't
punch
even
down at a
acknowledgement,
guy
but-
with no brain. Like,
I don't know. He does it to a guy with no body in The Search for Spock, I'm sure.
he also
just-
slapped a pregnant woman in the face at one point. So.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was that.
Yep, that happened.
All right. So, closing this one out, we'll get ready for next week. Dell's going to age us into some Trek. We've only been working on this one, penciling it out for about 3 or 4 months now.
Hey,
We're finally going to get to it.
Gotta be experts.
I had to
and
go
I-
back. I'm definitely gonna work some more Picard because I think there's, especially in the season 3, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot
Yeah.
of aging concepts in that. So I'll get the outline to you guys shortly.
Wonderful. So join us here at 2 p.m. Eastern on Buffer Time Sunday. We'll talk about that next week. And otherwise, I would like to thank our co-hosts here, especially Nathan, for joining us today and expressing their very special point of view.
Heretical
amongst
was the term I
all
used.
the others here. And thank all of you for tuning in and viewing. We will catch you next week. Live long and prosper.